Brandon, welcome to the show. You are a triple gunshot survivor, a charity owner, and an Ironman athlete. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me. Charity founder, by the way.
Charity
Owner,
founder.
maybe. I don't know if you want to say.
Can you stipulate it as that? Maybe not.
Executive director.
Amazing. So the first question I want to ask you, after being shot 3 times on that day that you described to me very vividly, when you were laying on the ground in a moment where you maybe didn't know whether or not that was going to be your last moment, what did you regret?
Damn, we're getting right into it. Eh?
Right into it.
No small talk, no nothing.
No,
So we had
right into it.
the small talk before. What did I regret? Man, it's a deep question, because I think there's different stages of different things that I regretted across the process. So the night that I got shot, my biggest regret, I'm trying to think. This is, I honestly don't, I've never thought about it like this.
No.
There's things that I thought about, but it wasn't necessarily regrets. So when I'm on the ground bleeding out, everybody tells you you're supposed to be thinking about your family, this like montage of all these things in your life. Like, I don't know if you watch How I Met Your Mother, but you see when
you see everything.
that's it. When Ted gets like hit by a car, it's like this like flashing of like his Stella and like his, all these things that matter to him.
Yeah.
I never really had that. And I don't know if it's because in my mind, I never thought I was going to die. I don't know if it was because I was stressed about other things, but the biggest regrets that I had the night of were just not living my life in a way that I would have been proud of had I not made it. And my friends talked about me at my funeral, right? Because at the time I was 23 years old, 22, 23, so early 20s.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really like lived to that point, if it makes sense. Like, I grew up playing sports. I had a pretty normal childhood. I had great parents. I went to university. I got that business law degree. I'd worked at the Supreme Court. Like,
traditional path.
that's it. I was like coming out. I actually was going to be a lawyer, then decided like I actually hate the law. So I was kind of like lost, if that makes sense. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Being a consultant would be sick. Like, you can make good money, like all this stuff. And I was working as a consultant at the time.
Yeah.
And then when I got shot, I just like, I regretted that was going to be how I was remembered, right? I regretted that I never had the balls to chase any of the things that actually mattered to me. And the reality of the situation is I didn't know what mattered to me at the time I got shot. I had no idea. I'd never once allowed myself to even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was bleeding out, it was more so, for the first time in my life, I understood how valuable time is, right? The first time in my life, I understood, you might have a lot less than you think, right? I was 23. I thought I had another fucking 70 years, right? And I might not have had more than another couple hours at that point. And I don't know if I had regrets, let's say, but instead I was already thinking about what I was going to do the morning after when I woke up. Because in my mind, there was no, even though the people around me were pretty certain there was a good chance I wasn't going to make it, I never had those doubts in myself. And I wasn't angry at the life that I'd lived, but I was excited to have a second opportunity to try to actually experience life, just in case I was back on that barbershop floor, fucking 2 months, 6 months, 2 years later, right? Like, I wanted to just change things a little bit, but I wouldn't say I had regrets.
In that moment then, like because you mentioned something super interesting there, how everybody around you, whether that be the doctors, maybe your family, maybe the people that took you to the hospital, they didn't think that, or they were not optimistic that you would make it.
Yeah.
What do you think that says about you, that although the beliefs of everybody else were that this man is not going to make it, no matter what petrifying state you were in, almost bleeding out, near death, it never even crossed your mind that you wouldn't wake up the next day?
Because I think without hope, you have nothing, right? In those moments, you're faced with two choices, right? The first choice is like give in and die, or the second is like be hopeful and keep fighting, right? And in that extreme, it's at least to me like unfathomable to just choose death, right? And death would have been easy. I think that's I think what a lot of people don't understand about my situation. And this is, for what it's worth, to my face, people were much more optimistic, right?
Yeah, naturally.
Like the woman who like compressed my wounds, I
Yeah.
talked to her afterwards. She was 100% certain I was gonna die. Like she handed me the phone, told me to call my mom. Like she thought it was gonna be the last time I ever talked to my mom.
Yeah.
And she only gave me that phone because she has 3 daughters of her own, and she knows how
That's what she would
important it
want.
would be,
Yeah.
right? Um, so I called my mom. I told her I loved her. I let her know everything was gonna be okay, even though it wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I guess it was, but we didn't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that at the time. But she was certain I was gonna die. Doctors gave me a 50-50 chance, like, that's what they told my parents, but
Okay.
they never really echoed that to me, right?
Mhm.
And damn, it's like gunshots in the room.
That's freaky, man.
Um, but, um but yeah, so in my mind, the only option really was to stay positive, and to do that I had to think about what was next, right? I had
Yeah.
to think about how I was going to move forward from this, even in those dark moments, because that's what keeps you fighting, right?
Yeah.
If I was just laying on that ground bleeding out, and I was like, well, tomorrow I'm going to go back to that same job that I hate, I'm going to go back to do all these things that I don't want to do in my life,
Yeah.
why the fuck would I keep fighting?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would I have to look forward to outside of death, right? And maybe that sounds dramatic because my life wasn't that bad, on a grand scale, right? I
Yeah.
have great family, I had great friends, I had a lot of things going for me.
Mhm.
But in those moments, I made commitments to myself to change things in my life that I didn't necessarily regret, but I didn't have the courage to take on,
Mhm.
right? And it kind of forced me to embark on this just journey of like reinvention, if that made sense. And in those moments, I didn't even know what that looked like.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what was next for me, if that made sense. I had some ideas, but I knew that something had to fucking change. And that's what kind of gave me hope to keep fighting. It's what gave me hope every day in the hospital when I was beat down. I lost like 50 pounds. I was
Nice.
I was a corpse, right?
Yeah.
And
Almost.
almost. I was almost a corpse. But in the hospital, I was about as bad shape as you could possibly be without being
Yeah.
dead, right? Like I literally like couldn't move. Like I was just a horizontal body that was like, getting fucking bathed by the nurses every day. Like I
Yeah.
was I was done, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And when you're in a state that low, you have to have something to look forward to. Otherwise, what's the point of getting up every day, right?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because you mentioned relative to other people, you might not have been in a bad situation prior to the accident, right?
Yeah.
You were living a similar life to what I lived before making a huge transition in my own life, right?
Yeah.
Now, I didn't go through an insane accident like that, but we also went different paths than we were told to and had intended to. And I think that a lot of people enter this fallacy of my life is not that bad because look at how other people have it.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we don't live other people's lives. We live our own life. So I guess for you, is that kind of the mindset you had to wanting to recover or never thinking that you wouldn't recover because you knew that you had your own life and strictly speaking, you wanted to live it in a way that you desired to because you knew how limited time was?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to unpack there. First, the urgency around time was something I felt really strongly after the shooting, and it's maybe dissipated a little bit in
Okay.
the years to follow. Right, I think that just like everybody else, I struggle with that now.
Yeah.
I will say there's nothing that stresses me out more than wasting time.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's because of the shooting. I don't know if that's like an implicit thing. 'Cause I don't think about it, but I can tell you if
Subconscious thing.
subconsciously, yeah, like subconsciously when I feel as though people are taking my time and not offering me any value or I'm wasting my time, that's when I get stressed. That's
Mhm.
when I get overwhelmed. That's when I get angry. So that could subconsciously be tied to the shooting for
Definitely.
sure. Um, but what was the first part of the
Just living life that, we understand that other people have things worse off and better than
oh,
than we do.
yeah, yeah. When it comes to
Living
gratitude,
your
I think it's something that I've gone back and forth with because I work with a lot of kids who objectively have life more difficult than me now,
Yep.
right? I work with a
100%.
lot of spinal cord injury survivors. I've got a kid right now I'm working with who's a quadriplegic,
Yeah.
right? And I see that kid remain positive and keep fighting and doing all these things that
Yeah.
matter to him. And like, how do I complain about my life? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So i- it's true that you can be grateful for having all of these competitive advantages that you and I do and many people do, which could be anything, right? That could be two working legs, that could
Yeah.
be you're relatively good looking, it could be you're naturally charismatic, it could be you're smarter than other people, it could be many things,
Mhm.
right? Like everybody has advantages that they could play to.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I realized really quickly into my recovery is comparison is truly the thief of joy, and
Yes.
also when you're constantly trying to compare your life to other people's, like, you might be grateful in some ways, but you're also going to fall short in a lot of ways, right? Instead,
Yeah.
you have to kind of focus on like your game. You have to focus on what you're doing for you and the people around you,
Yeah.
right? And that can mean multiple things, right? I think, for one, it can mean not comparing yourself to others, but for two, it could be not being like full of like vitriol
Mhm.
towards others as well, right? I think when people talk about comparison, they forget that like you compare yourself against people who are better than you, but you also compare yourself against people who are worse than you, and that can justify your inaction, right? It
Yeah.
can it can create this like paralysis, because if you're setting a bar so low and you're like, well, at least I'm better than them,
Yeah.
you're not truly living, right? Like it's kind of a sad existence.
Yeah, I 100% I agree with you. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that comparison is the thief of joy, because most of the people that are going to be viewing this podcast typically might be early stage entrepreneurs, maybe existing business owners, or maybe people that just desire to get into something that isn't the traditional path that they have been fed,
Yeah.
right? Similar to maybe us.
Yeah.
And I was speaking with one of my friends, as well as one of my clients the other day, and I have people in my network, so do you, who have achieved incredible things financially,
Yep.
and they're happy, but not because they necessarily achieved those things.
Yeah.
And so, for example, a friend of mine hit a $20,000 month in his business,
Yep.
and then he felt a sense of emptiness. Not emptiness that like he wasn't happy that he hit $20,000 a month, but now he wasn't motivated to continue.
Yeah.
There was no intrinsic motivation keeping him going or purpose behind what he was doing. And what I explained to them is that if you always compare yourself to people that are ahead of you, the goalposts are always moving away from you as you move closer to them. And so, if that is true, and that you can't be happy with achieving a thing that you wanted to achieve in the first place, and that no matter what, if it's 20K, if it's 200K, if it's 2 million, you will always strive for the next thing. Would it not be fair to say that no matter what you do in life, you will be unhappy? And that is the definition of why comparison is the thief of joy.
It's that's a deep one. I'm trying to think.
Trying to unpack it.
I don't know. I think that I think that if you're trying to derive your sense of worth from a monetary gain,
Yep.
maybe you'll always be unhappy because you'll never be able to achieve that accolade because you'll constantly be stacking yourself up against what
Others.
other people are doing, right?
Yeah.
Like I look at like one of my good friends, I watched him have 100K month after 100K month, like one of our mutuals, and I watched him buy his first Rolex. And dude, like I knew him when he was dirt fucking poor.
Yeah, nothing.
Like couldn't afford his rent. Like I watched his business go from being an idea to something that really took off.
Yeah.
And I knew how much that fucking Rolex meant to him.
Yeah.
And once he got it, he didn't give a fuck about it.
No.
Didn't care about it at all. He was wearing it into the steam room at the public gym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he was throwing it at the wall. Like it didn't matter to him,
Yeah.
right? And I watched him evolve into someone who realized that like money actually doesn't mean anything except for freedom. And
Yeah.
once you have freedom, everything else like doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
So if your goal is money, it can buy you the freedom necessary to enjoy your life.
Yeah.
But if you're tying your sense of worth and your happiness to a monetary goal,
Yeah.
you're probably going to always end up being disappointed because there's always going to be more. Now,
Definitely.
the second thing you talked about is like, are we just like unhappy always? And
Yeah.
and I don't believe that to be true. I really don't. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot in my own life lately, but I think you can just choose to be happy.
Yeah.
Right? Like
would
I
agree.
look at a lot of people, like I was telling you, I've got a kid who's a quadriplegic. Okay, this kid got shot in the neck.
Yeah.
He's still fucking happy, man. Like I
Yeah.
see him like he's actually probably in therapy right now. It's like physiotherapy.
Yeah.
He goes there and grinds with a smile on his face. He's making jokes, and like you can choose to just look at the world in a way that's a little bit lighter, right? And
Yeah.
obviously it's not just like easy for everyone to be happy all the time. If you weren't sometimes sad or angry or frustrated or dealing with other emotions, being happy would be, you can't be happy 100% of the time.
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes you just need to undercomplicate it, and I don't know, like just smile. Even if you feel like shit, even if you're overwhelmed, smile and just know that things will work out if you keep putting yourself in winning situations. And ironically, those are the people that end up winning. I've
Yeah.
met a lot of entrepreneurs. Like we have this one mutual who's a 7-figure guy. Like I have mentors who are 8-figure, like, you know, up to 9-figure guys, like
Yeah.
some real big players.
Yeah.
Bro, like they're fucking happy. Like, and it's not they're not happy because of the money. They're happy before they got the money.
Yeah.
The money is just a byproduct of them
Of
playing the game.
of the
Like
energy.
of the energy,
Yeah.
right? It's like I look at one of my main mentors, the guy I've become very close with.
Yeah.
This dude does not care about the money. Like money is like a thing that matters because his family depends on that, right?
Sure.
Like it's of course it's gonna matter. But I watched him donate a ton of his money away to charities, and like it didn't bother him whatsoever because he's like, great, I get to play the game again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the difference. If you go into this world because money is the only thing that matters to you, maybe you'll get that freedom one day. But the
Mhm.
freedom is going to be what brings you the happiness, of
Mhm.
course, not the money itself. Um, but if you go in and your only goal is to make money, like the Machiavellian way,
Yeah.
I mean, Machiavelli is not like it's not like a capitalist thing, but
Sure.
like if your goal is just to like rip off others and benefit yourself,
Yeah.
you're gonna end up so fucking unhappy. Everybody's gonna hate you, and it's not gonna work out. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to try to put on a smile, and everything else kind of
A real one
falls
or
in
a fake
line.
one though?
If it's got to be fake, then it's fake. But I don't mean fake in the sense that like you're conning people. I mean
Yeah.
fake in the sense that even when things get hard, you wear a smile anyways, even if you don't want to be smiling,
Yeah.
because eventually that fake smile turns into a real smile. And if you like subconsciously convince yourself you're happy
Mhm.
enough over time, eventually you're just going to be happy, you know?
I wanna go in that direction on a few different things that you just mentioned there, because you mentioned your the person who is a part of your charity who's a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have gone through incredible adversity, and I think even going through and doing an Ironman is adversity because I can't physically see myself in my present self doing an Ironman. Now it's something that again, anything is possible. I think I can do anything, but
Time and reps, man.
yeah, it's time and reps. But you also mentioned there that the subconscious is essentially manifesting something into your reality, right? Like the more you put on a fake smile, the more it'll become a real one because of just this repetition.
Yeah.
And so for you, for the people who you've helped with your charity, who have all faced these incredible bouts of adversity that most people never will, what role do you think that your subconscious or your mind in general played in getting you guys through things like this that most people, strictly speaking, are never able to tap into because they never have to?
Yeah, it's a tough question because if you want my honest opinion, I think that most people could do what I did.
Mhm.
You know, like I look at the kids who are quads and paralyzed, and maybe it's a little bit different because
Yeah.
it's such a different ball game than what I experienced. I think for those kids,
Mhm.
community is more important than anything else, right? I,
Mhm.
I think that mindset is obviously important, but that mindset comes from connecting with other people who are fighting the same battle as you and understanding, right?
Yeah.
Because it you have to show up every I mean, for them, the amount of courage it takes too. Like you have to show up every single day under the guise that you're never gonna walk again
Yeah.
and fucking wholeheartedly believe that you're just gonna defy those odds.
Yeah.
Right? For me, it was as simple as if you put in the work and you get a little bit of luck, but you really put in the work, like you'll get there, right? There was a ceiling for
Chance.
me to reach, right?
Okay.
For these kids, doctors are telling them that there's absolutely no chance, and they have to basically just defy those doctors' beliefs and go at it anyways
But
every
wasn't that
single
the
day.
case for you as well? Weren't you told that the likelihood that you would ever walk,
Oh,
run,
I guess
or
run a
swimming?
marathon and stuff. Yeah, like my you're right. My neurologist did tell me that like marathon was not in the cards.
Yeah.
So there was people who said I couldn't do it, but the closest people around me were like, "Fuck that guy, doesn't know what he's talking about,"
Yeah.
right? So like, I guess to an extent it was there, but you have to have this radical self belief
Yeah.
to get to that point, right? So I, d- yeah,
What compels someone who's just been shot 3 times and is being told that they can't walk again for an extended period of time to ask the question, "Okay, but, like, marathon though? Like, is that possible?" Like,
yeah. I
what
mean,
compels you to ask a question like that in that moment?
I was compelled to ask whether or not I could run a marathon a year after being shot because I just hated feeling like a victim.
Okay.
I hated the way the thing that pissed me off the most in the hospital
Yeah.
was I had this victim support worker who came and saw me on the first day and gave me these like 10 different pamphlets of like, here's where you can get like this help and this help and this help and this
Yeah.
help. And in retrospect, like she was doing her job. Like she was being like a good person. It's good to have those communities, those resources, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I offer those communities and resources
To
now,
other
right?
people.
To other people.
Ironic, isn't it?
But
Yeah.
when she came in there, I was not ready to accept the fact that I was a victim. I didn't want to be a fucking victim. And what ended up happening, I had a really big community when I got shot, which I was very fortunate to have. I went out, ironically, like I don't really drink and party anymore, but like I drank, I partied. I knew a lot of people
Yeah.
back then, right?
Blessing in disguise.
A blessing in disguise. I had a great community.
Yeah.
But let's say I got 1,000 DMs, okay, from people wishing me well.
Yeah.
900 of those were people just checking the box,
Yeah.
right? Like they might
They
have
felt
cared and
compelled,
they,
like
they
they
felt
had to.
compelled. And again, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
And I think that you should do that stuff when you see someone hurting.
Yeah.
But it was just as much for them as it was for me, if that makes sense, right? Maybe 50 of them who were, you know, like my close friends, who were rooting for me, and then like just a handful of them that were really, really, really like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm here for you. I'll do anything you need. That sort of thing,
Yeah.
right? But what ended up happening was you become a victim of your circumstance because everybody feels pity for you. And I didn't want anybody to feel pity for me. I hated that feeling.
Mhm.
I hated the idea that people were looking down on me because of this fucking thing that I went through.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't want people to see me in that light. I didn't want to be like, oh, like, you know, like poor Brandon, like, what can we do for him? Like, we got to make his life better. Like,
Yeah.
Brandon, you got to take your time. You got to process this. You got to think about it. Like, though that might have been like true and fair in some ways,
Yeah.
I hated the feeling of being a victim. And to me, it was immediate. How do I turn this story into something that doesn't make me the victim? Right? How do I do something so like I'm not this poor kid who had his life ruined that everybody feels bad for,
Mhm.
with just this like empathy? And how do I get to a point where like I'm the hero in the story, right? Like I'm the person who is you know, like a positive influence on everybody. Like how do I flip the script, right? And that's where, you know, it was within like a week of me being in the hospital that I knew I wanted to run this marathon a year later.
Yeah.
Not because I had any idea that it was possible. Like keep in mind, I'd never ran more than a 10K
Yeah.
before the shooting, right? I was a good runner in high school, but even when I got shot, like I wasn't a great runner. I was
Yeah.
like an hour 10
Yeah.
like 10K guy with like lots of breaks, right? But I wanted to run a marathon literally because I wanted to prove to people that I was back and I didn't want people feeling sorry for me anymore.
Mhm.
And that's something I think that a lot of people don't fully understand, because there is a lot of people who derive their identity, they derive all of their social currency through a victim identity, right? But that was something that from the time I was a little kid, my dad like really drilled into my head, like,
Yeah.
don't be a victim. That was, I don't know, everybody's families are different, but that was the one thing my dad would do that drove me nuts my entire childhood. Like if I didn't want to clean the house and I was complaining, it's like, oh, you're going to be a little victim today, you know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
like that was the word that like loss of better words, like just fully triggered me.
Yeah.
And like when someone told me I was that, it was like, nah, like fuck that. Like that's not me.
Interesting. You know, the whole point of starting this show is in order to provide people with the same bout of education and transformation that I went through to better understand my mind and oftentimes the things that we don't even know are there that limit us.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that has to do with identity.
Yep.
So I guess for someone watching at home, you know, they don't have to have been shot 3 times or shot at all, but just struggling, strictly speaking, with feeling a sense of friction between who they are right now and who they desire to be, and just not feeling like they can ascend into that version of themselves. Can you describe a little bit what role identity played in you actually getting to the point of your goal, which was to run a marathon? You know, like how much of a role did identity play in you achieving that?
Yeah, I mean, it plays a role for sure, but I think the reality is, even at that moment, like I didn't really have a strong identity. You know, I didn't really know
Yeah.
who I was. I wasn't actively thinking about it that much, but I knew that I couldn't be the version of myself that I was prior to the shooting, right?
Mhm.
I knew that I needed to forge a new identity. So for me,
How did you do that then?
I showed up every day with absolutely no idea what I was doing and nothing but hope and a little
Yeah.
bit of a positive belief, and eventually forged that identity. Like I think when I got shot, my identity was that I was a victim of gun violence,
Yep.
right? Like my identity literally was like what I would consider a negative identity. Now, like that might not be a fair statement, but
Depends on your
like
perception.
I viewed it as a negative identity because I didn't want to be a victim, but that's how everybody else saw me, right? That was like my external identity,
Yeah.
right? Internally, I didn't I viewed myself as a kid who had an opportunity, and I wanted to keep fighting to reframe my identity to the outside world as that of a survivor, like that of a fucking dog,
Yeah.
like I wanted other people to see me in the way that I to my core saw myself.
I see.
And I didn't really know I was capable of all that stuff, but I knew that that's what I wanted to be.
Mhm.
So I showed up every day and like keep fighting until eventually the outside world saw me the same way that I believed I was. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think it makes sense. I think one of the things you mentioned at the beginning of that was extremely interesting and is actually the encapsulation of what I think a lot of this work is. It's just how do I enter this new version of me in order that I need to be in order to achieve my goals? Well, it's showing up every single day with the complete and utter belief that I am that person with
yeah,
nothing but hope and execution and just not a sense of like procrastination or anything.
yeah,
For you, you were almost like had an intrinsic motivation to the nth degree because otherwise you couldn't walk.
yeah.
So typically you'll be a little bit more intrinsically motivated, but
High stakes help for sure.
high stakes definitely helped you. Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying you should drain your bank account and
No, 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 no,
like
no.
have you seen that one guy? He's like his whole sorry, I'm like going on a rant
No,
now,
no,
but
you're
like
good.
have you seen this one guy? His whole like TikTok, Instagram account is
Yeah.
basically like I'm homeless and I'm trying to stop being homeless. He like sold all his possessions. He's living in a
Really?
Tesla or whatever. Yeah, and he's just like basically investing all of his money, like trying to become rich and stuff. But like
I've never
he
oh, well, yeah,
fully like
yeah.
put himself on the streets.
Everything he makes, he just invests into like
Yeah,
stocks and he's yeah, yeah, I've seen that guy before.
yeah,
But the actual question that I want to ask then, like, is in your case, again, for like the viewer at home, what kind of strategies, other than the sheer willpower and sheer high stakes environment that you found yourself in, what do you think you were telling yourself day by day to just reaffirm the identity that you had to be in order to make it happen? Because not everybody has the high stakes motivation that you had. You know what I mean? Intrinsically.
it's true. It's a difficult question to answer because I don't think that I ever really thought about it. Yeah, I didn't question it. I had so where I was lucky, and this is I talked about community before and how
Yeah.
important community is. And it's important to have a community that is a strong community,
Yeah.
right? I think that the alternative is a lot of people they put themselves in these communities of people who are like also victims, if that makes sense, and they
Yeah.
validate them.
Yeah. That's
That's
the
something
worst.
that's really bad.
Yeah.
But for me, I had a community around me that made it impossible to fail, right?
Mhm.
My dad, for example, drove me to the other side of the city every day where my best friend gave me 5 hours of free physiotherapy and worked
That'll
me
help.
like to the bone,
Yeah.
right? So I couldn't have done that by myself. Now, what my days looked like after I got shot, so this is once I'd finally left the hospital,
Yeah.
is my dad would drive me to the other end of the city.
Mhm.
Frank and I would do therapy for like 5 hours. And then my dad would drop me off at Movati, the gym close to my parents' place, and I would work out for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like that's all I did was work out. And then when I got home, I would read books and try to understand like PTSD, mindset, all that stuff, because I knew I was going to struggle with that. So
Interesting.
um
What did you learn about that then? Because I feel like that's one of the things
yeah.
that a lot of people do incorrectly is they feel as though that if they educate themselves, that will have a natural progression to action.
Yep. It doesn't.
Never does,
Yeah.
right? Because you can read every book on self-development in the world, watch any Tony Robbins TED Talk or whatever it may be. That's not going to change who you are.
No, I think what it does is it helps you understand who you are, and then as long as you take action, you can start to rectify those things,
Yeah.
right? But I looked at it. The biggest takeaway for me from my readings was I was dealing with pretty bad PTSD at the time, right? You got to keep in mind I was shot by in a gang affiliated shooting. I
Yeah.
wasn't part of a gang, but I was now I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
now better or worse involved in this life,
Sure.
right? And there was certainly a part of me that didn't feel safe, like in public, right? I didn't know if these guys wanted to finish me off because they didn't want me to testify against them. I
Mhm.
didn't know they knew who I was, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all around the same age in the city. I knew who they were within a week. They knew
Yeah.
who I was within a week. I'm sure,
Yeah.
right? And that left me with such a high level of stress that it's hard to explain to people who haven't really been there, because people talk about like anxiety and all these things.
Yeah.
You want to face real anxiety, feel like you're going to get
Sure.
shot every single day you leave your apartment, right?
Yeah.
I was so afraid to walk down the street 2 months after I got shot that there was one day at a store where I almost full blown like bottled the guy
Wow.
because he was wearing a bandana the same color as the guys who shot me that I distinctly remember.
Yeah.
And I literally positioned myself subconsciously without even realizing around like an aisle at a store,
Yeah.
grabbed a bottle and was fully ready to swing. Like, and my roommate grabbed me. He's like, "Hey man, like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I was like kind of like snap back in. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like, you know, but
Fight or flight took
that's it.
control.
Fight or flight took over, and this was like a 5 foot homeless guy. Like, it wasn't like an intimidating dude
Yeah.
in any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But it was something like triggered me, right? And that was one of the real, there was a couple other moments, but that was one of the real indicators that something needed to change in my life. Cause like, I can't just be in a position where I'm back reintegrated into society and I'm like literally ready to kill someone
Yeah.
at a grocery store.
Yeah.
Right. So I started reading those books, and my biggest takeaway was this thing called exposure therapy. So this is probably really relevant for your audience. At least it's
Absolutely.
something that fundamentally changed my life. Is when you know what you're struggling with, you need to dive into that
Yep.
to learn that it's not that deep.
Yep.
Right. And in my case, like it almost ended up being that deep. So what I started doing is I was afraid to walk around public places, like all this stuff. So I started going into the hood.
Interesting.
So this was maybe 2.5 months after I was just trying. I had this idea I want to run a marathon, so I just started like running again. I was like Terry Fox in it. I was like
Sure.
hobbling through, and what I'd do is I'd go through the sketchiest neighborhood that was close by my place at 3 a.m. Okay, in the middle of the night, and I'd go do these like little like 3 to 5K jogs. And the logic was like, if I'm gonna get killed, it's gonna happen here.
Yeah.
Right.
Might
Like,
as well.
that's it. Like it's like because that point of my life, you're in like a mental prison,
Yep.
right? Because you know you shouldn't be afraid of going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like you know that when you're at the restaurant with your buddies, you're probably not going to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
But you also thought when you were going into the barber shop you weren't going to get shot, right? And that happened.
Yeah.
So your sense of reality is just completely shifted.
Yep.
So I was living in this constant state of fear, right? I was so afraid of everything around me that if I put myself in the hood and I got killed, it wouldn't have like what I just die. Like, you know, that's fine. Like, it's like I was in such a bad place that it was worth the risk
I see.
to go risk my potential death for the benefit of knowing that if I don't die here, I'm probably going to be good in the grocery store.
Yeah.
Right. So, I put myself in the hood, like not every night, but every other night. And then eventually over time, I started to you know, not die. There wasn't even, no one even batted an eye, right? I ran by some sketchy people, but no one ever batted an eye, right? And then eventually you realize like, okay, it's actually all right. Like I'm gonna be fine. Everything's safe. And then I slowly started to reintegrate. So the exposure therapy was by far my biggest takeaway.
I think for a lot of people watching at home, it feels weird to say that. A lot of people watching at home, obviously relative to your situation, they won't be going through maybe they will be going through, but likely not the same amount of PTSD and the requirement for getting over a certain sense of trauma.
Yeah.
But what I've come to understand about the mind in my own experience going through like having so many limiting beliefs, like so many things that held me back that I didn't even know were there.
Yep.
And then getting over them is the first step is strictly speaking, bringing it out into the open.
Yep.
So, and it sounds almost like corny, but acceptance.
Yep.
So when you accept that something is holding you back, for you, maybe that would have been the PTSD of being shot in that environment. For another person like myself, it was that putting myself on camera or exposing who I am to society was risky because I could be judged.
Yep.
When you understand it and you see it, you can never unsee it again. And every time it shows up, your mind, if you practice hard enough, will send off alarms and be like, oh, it's happening again, right? Which is probably what happened with you.
Yeah.
And then the difficulty, or it's kind of like a double-edged sword, the difficulty, but also the beauty is that once you can't unsee it, you will feel so incredibly compelled to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Because that's what our brain does. It wants to solve problems.
Yeah, well, and it makes me think too, you know, because I obviously a lot of the things that you're talking about, I've struggled with as well, right? Like
Mhm.
putting myself on camera for the first time was so unbelievably intimidating. It's
Yeah.
still intimidating to date,
Yeah.
right? Like it's much harder than I think a lot of people will give it credit,
Yeah.
right? But one of the things that I've realized is you have to be, you know, you talk about how extreme and intense my problems are,
Yeah.
but right now, like I'm a little stuck. Like I've got some, you
Mhm.
know, some things that I'm working on as to like what's next in my life,
Yeah.
right? And I'll tell you that's a lot harder than it is to recover from being shot because the roadmap is very clear,
Mm.
right? It's very easy to be bold when you're living under these exceptional circumstances.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be bold when your life is just like normal,
Yeah.
right? And you are complacent. So for anybody who's struggling with putting themselves out there, trying these different things in their life, I I I don't know. I think that you just have to expose yourself to the things that scare you over and over and over and over again
Yeah.
until, like you said, they become normal. But also, I don't know, you just realize it's not that deep.
Yeah.
Like the pain of living a life that you don't feel any sort of pleasure in and you're constantly doubting whether you're doing enough
Yeah.
is so much fucking worse than taking that first step
Yeah.
and just trying something new, right? Even if you get judged, even if you get roasted, like man, I've got judged and roasted by countless people many times over the last few years.
Yeah.
Everybody does. Usually it's just like losers who don't have the courage to take the step that you're taking though. Like I will say
It's always a projection.
it's always a projection because ironically, you know who there's two demographics of people who've never roasted me. The people who've done it
Mhm.
and then the people who don't care. It's always the people who have that competitive desire,
Yeah.
who want to put themselves out there, but don't have the balls to put themselves out there
Yeah.
that judge you. And they're not judging you because they think you're a loser. They're judging you because they themselves feel like they're a loser. And you just have the courage to do the thing that they will not do,
Mhm.
right? It's never ever ever been my friends who are genuinely happy with where they are that roast me or strangers. It's
Yeah.
always the people who just like they don't have balls, right? And
If you were to be speaking to somebody, obviously not myself anymore, I post content now, but
yeah,
somebody who doesn't post content, somebody who maybe would desire to, and it doesn't need to be for any business perspective. Like it
yeah,
could be for business, but it could be also just for the sake of maybe just putting themselves out there because they never feel like they have before.
yeah,
What would you just like, what would you say to them in terms of your experience in the beginning? And I can even speak about mine on like what it felt like to just finally show hundreds of thousands of people who you actually are
yeah,
instead of hiding behind an optimized Instagram
yeah.
pictures and stuff like that. You know, like what did that feel like?
It's freeing, and it's freeing because you no longer feel like you're living like fake. I'm trying to figure out how to best articulate it, but
Yeah,
it's really freeing to put yourself out there because now the world knows who you are. Like
yeah,
the reality is, no matter who you are, you could be the most well liked person or the worst person. People are gonna love you. People are gonna hate you. It's usually a projection of their own self things. Like
yeah.
there's people who hate themselves who just will hate you,
Of course,
right? I think one of the
there's
things
plenty of people like that.
that's it, dude. When I was a kid, one of the things I struggled with more than anything is I was naturally very charismatic, very loud, very vocal, but I did it because I loved life.
Yeah,
And I really got beat down a lot because I felt like I was making other kids feel inferior, if that makes sense, because they were quiet. They didn't like that I was like that,
I
right?
see. But it was a
And
projection.
but it was a projection, and it's almost always a projection. But what happens is when you put your true and authentic self out in the world, you open yourself up to criticism, but you also open yourself up to connecting with the people who are like you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize,
I see.
especially if you grow up in, let's say, like a small town.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know, their friends are the same people they've known since they were 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, if you maybe some of these people are like real close friends. I'm not saying they're not, but what I'm saying is if you only exist in a people who in an echo chamber of your own lived experience, the people who only see the world do things the same way that you do over and over and over again because you're kind of like hiding yourself from everybody else,
Yeah.
you don't open yourself up to some of the most incredible experiences and people out there,
Yeah.
right? So when you put yourself out there, you authentically and vulnerably, because a lot of people will just put themselves out there behind a shield because they're trying to monetize what they're doing.
Yep. Absolutely.
A for like first off, you just want my honest opinion. Like you don't succeed doing that. I've never ever seen anybody succeed in content being completely fake. Even the gurus that you look at, they're still like real human beings the way they put themselves out there,
Yeah.
right? I think
Plenty
of
of
like,
people like that.
yeah, think of like Alex Hormozi, right? Who's one of the goats in the space. Like great with the say like business content he puts out.
Mhm.
I know who that motherfucker is. At least like who he's really worked hard for me to believe he is,
Yeah.
right? And it seems as though he's being pretty authentic and vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's not just trying to sell me, but it's a byproduct of him being a dude that I like, that
Yeah.
he can sell me, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. It's freeing to yourself because now you don't have to pretend anymore that
Yeah.
you're someone that you're not. Because if you're in the corporate world, you've been in the corporate, well, you've been, I guess, government. It might be worse, but
I've been in the whole 9 yards, man.
yeah,
Online, corporate, government, like
that's
the
it.
whole
I
thing.
spent a lot of time in corporate and government,
Yeah.
and like there's a ton of people who just you will never know who they are.
Do you wanna
They're
know what's crazy?
yeah,
Is I think we think as though the corporate, world is a lot of, like, ass kissing and
yeah,
stuff like that, but it's almost like obvious levels of ass kissing.
yeah,
And in some capacity, you almost get an authentic version of who they are because I genuinely believe that they think that they're like that. Whereas the irony is that the online space is full of people who pretend way more than these other people do.
yeah. I agree with that. I think it's just more the online space. There's a lot of people who intentionally pretend. I think in
Yeah.
the corporate world, there's people who like they they just think it's how it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? Like I think a lot of people in the online world are overtly trying to manipulate you.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas in the corporate world, it's like, well, I have to kiss my boss's ass if I want to move up this damn company. I got to climb the ladder. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
It's the status quo.
it's the status quo. And the greatest irony, man, is I've had the opportunity to connect with a lot of like high level execs
Yeah.
since the shooting, since like content started doing well when I was initially blowing up and stuff. I've made some connections I otherwise probably wouldn't have connected with.
Yeah.
The irony is like kissing their ass is the last thing they
They
want,
want, yeah.
right? It's like when you walk in as a 20, I was probably 26, let's say to 28 when I met a lot of these guys.
Yeah.
They respected me because I came in there and didn't suck up to them
Yeah.
because I gave them ideas. I was bold, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people need to learn is like your middle managers might like when you kiss their ass, but the people who are in real positions of power, like they want a trailblazer.
Yeah.
They want somebody who thinks differently. They want somebody who's competitive and driven and willing to challenge them.
Yeah.
Because no real leader wants their thoughts to be echoed over and over and over again. Real leaders, they want somebody to come in and think differently than them because then you figure out what the hell's going on,
Mhm.
right? So it's maybe a side tangent, but I think that, you know, I think that if you approach life with this desire to actually figure out what the hell is going on and you don't care who you're connecting with, but you still maintain that same, I guess, principle, you'll always win.
I'm just they'll cut this out. I'm just saying if like because we're over like a minute,
Okay.
2 minutes, so I'm just trying to see if there's other people that are gonna come, but
Yeah, it's all good.
we can maybe go over like 5 minutes.
Sure.
Fuck, what was the last thing I wanted to say? Let me just look it up. A little tangent here.
That's okay.
Yeah, we'll give it another 5 or so. But yeah, what I really would love to ask you on the back of the whole conversation. I mean, at the end of the day, what you've just described is exposure therapy
Yeah.
in and of itself. And I actually want to share like my perspective on it. For me, I felt as though I came to the realization at some point, again, like when you become aware of something, it becomes painfully obvious.
Yeah.
That I was projecting somebody for the last, let's say 10, 15 years that I genuinely believed was the real version of me.
Yeah.
Until I almost had like somebody hold up a mirror in front of me and realized that it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I was putting on a mask for everyone.
Yep.
And so the purpose for me to be sharing content and all of these different things like that initially was just I wanted to remove that mask. I wanted to share with people like what I actually thought, who I actually was, that I actually wasn't this super confident individual, that I was simply only projecting it as opposed to truly internalizing it.
Yeah.
And the beauty of doing the work that I have done, that I now teach, that I want to share on this show, that is the purpose of why I had you here, is truly because I think it's the most important work you'll do in your entire life. It's changed my life. I went from someone who projected confidence to truly feeling it every single day internally. And that is something that it feels pretty fucking good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I want to ask you is, if you were to go back to this version of Brandon, like, I don't know, what was that now? 3-4 years ago?
6 years.
6 years ago?
Yeah.
Before you had been shot,
Yeah.
right? because when you had been shot, I feel like you already had this powerful mind at this point. But before you had been shot, what would you tell him now that you wish you had known at the time? Or what would you tell him that you wish you had known at the time?
Hmm. If I could go back and talk to myself before I got shot, I would tell myself to have the courage to trust that I knew what the hell I was doing. I think one of the things I look back on that, maybe not a lot of people realize about me is, like, I was a fucking dog
Yeah.
growing up, and I don't think too many people know that, but
Mhm.
there was times, man, like, just for perspective, when I was grade 6, so I don't know how old that is. That's young.
It's like what, 11?
Yeah,
Nah,
11.
12 maybe?
Yeah, so 11, 12, I ran 100 laps of my block. That was about 300 meters. So do the math. That's like 30K.
Yeah.
And I ran that because I had a cross country tryout the next day. And I was like, shit, I haven't trained enough. I've got to go out there and push. And there was also a girl that was on the street I wanted to impress. But like,
Great.
I ran 30K as like a 12-year-old
Yeah.
just because I was like, I gotta do it. There was a lot of things I look at when I was a kid. Like,
Yeah.
if a teacher told me, I had a teacher once tell me I was gonna fail math, and I just like studied nonstop, got like 100 on the test,
Yeah.
right? Like, just things like this. I got cut from my hockey team. It like sparked something in me. I came back, led the team in goals the next
Mhm.
year. Like, that dog was always there,
Mhm.
but I silenced that because I felt like that's what society wanted me to do, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want to make other people feel bad because I was so competitive, so driven. I've failed gym years, man, because like in grade school, I failed gym as one of the better athletes in the class because I was competitive, because
Mhm.
I pushed hard. And somewhere along the lines, the forces that be kind of silenced that like dog in me. And I stopped trusting myself. I
Mhm.
stopped being confident in myself, like this blind, just like optimism,
Yeah.
because I didn't think that other people wanted me to be like that. I think they wanted me to fit in like a box, right? And I wish I could go back and tell myself that you need to be like that. You need to believe in yourself. You need to put yourself out there. You need to have the courage to be different.
Yeah.
Not because that's the only way to live life. I know a
Mhm.
lot of people, man, who just they want to fit in. They want to be in that comfortable place. And there was a point in my life where I didn't understand people like that, but I think now I do. Like, my grandpa's like that. He turned 100 this year. Is my one of my mentors,
Big
man.
birthday.
Big
Centurion.
birthday. He's
Yeah.
101 this year now,
Crazy.
coming up. But he's one of my biggest mentors, and he's the complete opposite of me.
Yeah.
Like, he's a wife that he was with for so long. Like, he just wanted to like get married, have a kid, and buy the home, like do all this cookie cutter stuff,
Yeah.
have a stable job. It's all he wanted. He wanted no stress. That's all good. That was his personality type. There's nothing wrong with being that kind of person.
Yeah.
But if you're not that kind of person, you can't pretend to be.
Yeah.
Right. And I started to pretend to be that kind of person because I thought that's what society wanted from me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the only way that I could be accepted, if that made sense.
Mhm.
And then after I got shot, I had the courage to stop pretending.
Yeah.
And I wish I could go back and shake myself when I was younger and maybe say like, hey, don't go 20K in student debt to take a degree that you're never going to use
Yeah.
because
Hindsight is 20.
because you don't have the courage to like step out of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
right? Um so yeah, if I could go back, man, I would just tell myself to have the balls to trust that I was going to be able to figure it all out, because I didn't back then. And even now, sometimes I question it. But at least now I know I've done enough hard things that I am capable of it. Even if we talked about it before, like there's some things I obviously need to work on just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I've got a resume of proof now. And that makes it a hell of a lot easier to buy in. Whereas when I was younger, I needed to start building that resume a little bit earlier.
I see. I think we both are incredibly aligned in that sense, where there was plenty of proof as to why we should believe in ourselves growing up.
Yeah.
And at some point,
And everybody probably believed in you too, right? You were probably told you
the
had the highest
the
potential.
whole
You were
lot,
you were going to be that guy.
the whole
Yeah.
lot, parents, teachers,
You're going to be the one in the
peers.
family to make it out.
Well, my dad has a PhD, so I just had like high standards to meet.
But that's a UPS truck driver. The bar was low.
My bar was quite high, but I think for me, it's a great point that you make, and that'll be the last point that we speak about. But how everybody told me my entire life that I had such great potential.
Yeah.
And it was actually a net negative effect for me, because having potential psychologically for me gave me a sense of not self-worth is the wrong word, but a sense of like, Oh, it's just
Entitlement.
gonna happen. Entitlement,
Yeah.
exactly, that's exactly what it was, and so, in this period where everybody would tell me I had potential, I would just coast, and I
Yeah.
was good enough to be just above average to the point where I could land a great job, get a degree, and not really try incredibly hard,
Yeah.
and as a result of that, ended up hitting a wall of feeling lost,
Yep.
and then needing to find myself over and over and over again, which I could have done instead of at 24, 25, 26, 17, 18, 19,
Yep.
right? And I heard this quote. I don't remember exactly where it was. I might have even come up with it, to be honest, from the back end of a conversation, not to like gas myself up. But I genuinely believe that most of us, and probably a lot of the people listening, have this same sort of upbringing,
Yeah.
right? Or this feeling that I have potential, but I'm not executing on it. Well, I'll be the first fucking person to tell you that life is way too short to have potential. Way too fucking short. And it's also way too short to be rich in potential, but poor in execution and action. I want it all. And I can only get that through taking actions based on the potential that I have intrinsically.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't really matter how much other people believe in you if you don't believe in yourself,
Yeah.
right? And you're not gonna like if other people see value in you, there's probably something of value in there, right? I think most people have that experience because everybody has something that makes them remarkable and unique,
Yeah.
right? But it is only when you take action on it that you truly to the core believe
Yep.
in all of the things that other people are saying, right? It's
Mhm.
no longer just like a nice entitlement, booster.
Mhm.
It's something that you actually start to feel conviction, and it's why people might say this is bad advice, people might say this is good advice, but
Mhm.
I think every young person, guy or girl, I think I mentor a lot of like younger guys, but girls too, whatever. Like
Yep.
they should do something so unbelievably fucked,
Yep.
like something they so to their core don't believe they could do while they're young, so they reset their expectations for the
Mm.
rest of their
I
lives,
like
right?
that.
I look at like you talk about Ironman. You even said you're like I couldn't do an Ironman right now.
Yeah. Of
It's hard, bro. It's not an
course.
easy thing. When I trained for my first one, last year I didn't know how to swim. Like literally didn't know how to swim. Was probably the worst swimmer that you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
And I just figured it out, right? And I did something. I mean, I didn't need that because I had the shooting, I think, recovery to teach me that I could do
Yeah.
crazy
It's
things.
crazy shit. Yeah.
Um, but the Ironman of itself, it reminded me that I can do things that I don't think are possible. Like
Mhm.
when I signed up for that, bro, like I did not to my core think it was possible. I
Yeah.
was certain I wasn't going to be able to finish it.
Yeah.
Right? Every young person should do something like that. Whether that's, I don't know, move to a new city because you're afraid you're not going to be able to make it work, right?
Yeah.
Like that could simulate the same thing. It doesn't have to be a physical challenge. It
Absolutely.
could be an Ironman. It's if you sign up for like a 5K though, it's not enough,
Yeah.
right? It's a great accomplishment. I'm not dissing on 5Ks.
It's not hard enough.
It's not hard enough. You have to do even a marathon. Like a marathon could be hard enough,
Mhm.
but you have to do the extreme of the extreme to know that you can stick to a plan, that you can commit to something, that you can change yourself
Mhm.
into the person necessary to do things that you at one point didn't think were possible,
Mhm.
right? And if you're young and you learn that lesson, you've got that in the bank for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
If you learn that lesson when you're 60, it's great, but your
You're
career's
60
already
years later.
passed. You're 60 years later, right? Like do it while you're young.
Yeah.
Do something that scares you so much that you don't believe it's possible while you're young.
Yeah.
And when you're older, you're going to benefit so much from it. People talk about the average income of an Ironman, and it's like, is it the chicken or the egg, right? Is it like only rich people can do it? And I think that's such a cope, if you
No,
want my honest
that's
opinion.
tough
Like,
for
it's
sure.
just like people who are like, well, I can't afford,
It just
like,
so happens that the people who take action in order to become rich.
that's it. Listen, like, you get a cheap bike, you get a cheap race. Like, you get all your stuff on the cheap. You could do an Ironman for not that expensive, right? You could do it for $2,500 if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That's like, again, that's on the cheap. It's not ideal race conditions, but like you could do it if you wanted to do it,
Yeah.
right? I know kids who are 18 years old with no money who found ways to do Ironmans,
Yeah.
right? But the lessons that you're going to reap from that moving forward into the rest of your life, unbelievable. And everybody else sees that in you too, right?
Mhm.
I see a lot of these kids who are younger, who are doing sports like this, who are doing these just abnormal things.
Mhm.
That's what the leaders in your life want to see, right? You ever want to apply for a job?
I
I'm
do.
telling you right now, that's going to make more of a difference than like
Oh, yeah.
your McDonald's like
No big deal.
experience. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's like the life experience. That's
Yeah.
what people want to see because it changes something in you.
Yeah.
And every kid who's young should do something that scares them so much
Mhm.
that they don't believe they can do it.
I think in an indirect way, that is an incredible, not comparison, but almost projection of one of the 7 principles from, you ever heard about, I spoke to you about this in the car, the Kabbalion.
Yeah.
So they're called Hermetic principles. And so in these Hermetic principles, there's one that is referred to as above, so below, as within, so without. And essentially, as above, so below is the, let's say heaven and then hell. And as within, so without is your inside projected into reality. And I think what going through these extremely difficult things at a young age does for you is create this level of self-belief from within that you then have the ability to manifest and project into your external reality. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people struggle with, is they don't understand the connection between the external world that they experience and their internal state. And so they feel as though they're going through life in a way that feels, like they're not living their desired reality. And that's not because the world is against them. It's because they haven't done the work to reflect internally what they want externally.
Yeah, the reality is, man, the world doesn't care about you. I think people think the world is against them. It's like when I got shot, people wanted to make it seem like the world was against me.
Yeah.
The world doesn't care. Like seriously, like the dudes who shot me, they didn't care about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was people in the world who cared.
Yeah.
Had I died, I would have been forgot about pretty quickly, right? And that's maybe that's morbid. You call it what you want to call it. That's the reality of life, right? And it's actually freeing when you understand that, because you realize that you're living with no pressure. Like people don't care about you. Think that people care so much about you.
Mm-hmm.
People don't care. The world doesn't care. People care about themselves. And if you make them feel a certain type of way, they're going to respond.
Yeah.
But it's never, ever about you. Right. And
so if the universe doesn't care, which I agree with.
Yeah.
What do you think can be said then about the time that we do have here?
Well, I'll put it this way. I don't know that I'd say the universe does. I think that everybody has a greater purpose. I think that our goal is to serve society, right? And to do something meaningful with our lives, even if the sole purpose of that is to inspire the people who are closest to you and matter the most to you to do things with their lives that are also meaningful and leave them as fulfilled as you're aspiring to be, right? So I wouldn't go as far as to say, like, I don't know. I don't know who doesn't care. What I'm saying, the people who are not connected to you don't care about you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a greater plan. I don't know about all that. What was the question though?
Well, I'll repeat the question. Yeah. But the universe lives in equilibrium and in a pendulum.
Yeah.
Right. So it'll always swing one way and then swing back the other way.
Oh yeah.
And so I believe that it would be naive to assume that my place in the universe is different than your place in the universe, because I think relative to that, we are all equal. However, I can believe intrinsically that I am the best that there is.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think if we can accept that to be true, and that all of our places in the universe are equal, what do you think you can say to somebody who's watching and give them advice in the way of, okay, what does that mean about what I should do with my time here? How should I approach?
Yeah, I mean, well, first, what you made me think of is there's that Matthew McConaughey quote where he's like, why would I not believe in myself? Like, if I don't believe in myself, nobody's going to believe in me,
Exactly.
right? Or some variation of that. And you have to have this radical self-belief. Otherwise, what the hell's your point of being here?
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're constantly hating who you are, what are you doing, right? Like it's listen, like I get down on myself like everybody else. I judge myself. I question the decisions I make. Like I am hard on myself, but at the core, like I do it because I love myself and I want to do something meaningful with my existence here. And if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. So I've gotten off track of what the question was, but I think that at the end of the day, everybody is equal in their opportunities. I really do believe and people can debate me on this. Like, I do believe we live in a society where everybody has equal opportunity. Everybody can flourish. Now, people might have different advantages and disadvantages, right? If you're a rich, good-looking, brilliant person from a great family, great neighborhood, great school, like you might have a competitive advantage than some other people, of course, right? But at the end of the day, we all have things that allow us the opportunity to have a competitive advantage in life. Like a lot of people, you just have to be able to see it, I guess is what I'm saying. So under the eyes of the universe, I do believe we're all equal, right? I think it would be foolish to assume that one human life is worth more than somebody else's.
Yeah.
But I think you internally, like you said, you don't have to believe that you're worth more than somebody else, but you do have to believe that you have the capacity to make a meaningful impact with your time here.
Yeah.
And if you don't think like that, not only are you letting yourself down, but you're letting the people around you who matter down.
Mhm.
Not just like let's like leave like financial stuff out of it for a second, but if you're constantly a drag on the people that matter to you, you're not only bringing them down, but you're not bringing them up,
Yeah.
right? So instead of being neutral, you're actually like an anchor,
Mhm.
right? And I just think that I don't know, like not believing in yourself and finding a way to be a victim of every situation, it's literally the worst thing you could do, not just for yourself, because again, you want to make a decision and ruin your own stuff, you can ruin your own stuff,
Yeah.
but everybody's got people that care about them.
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person who doesn't believe in yourself, you're bringing them down too.
I 100% agree. Your environment is what dictates your reality. Typically, also your internal state, mostly your internal state.
Yeah, but I do think I know we got to wrap up with time, but I think one thing that's really important to say as well is I think people have this idea that like the people they spend the most time with impact who they are, and that's true to an extent.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time when people say that, they're also acting as if they have no accountability.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's like, well, the 5 people I'm around are super negative, so I'm super negative. It's like, bro, then be the fucking positive change.
Yeah.
You know, like be the one. Like if you believe that everybody's like the people who are around them, you need to be that guy. Like lift your people up, man. Like if
Yeah.
you can be positive, maybe your people can be positive too. Like I've seen it. I've needed my friends to be that positive guy when I've been a little down sometimes, and
Yeah.
vice versa, right? Like, I don't know. It's just like just be the fucking light, man. Like believe in yourself, be the light, and others will follow. And if they don't, it's all good, man. Like you got a long time on this earth. You cut some people out, you can make some new friends. Like, but if you sit and wallow, like nothing good can come from it.
Yeah. Be the energy that you intrinsically require.
Yeah. Even if you don't believe, even if you don't feel like it, you know what I mean? Like, even if you feel overwhelmed and scared and just drained and gutted, put a fucking smile on.
Yeah.
Even if you don't feel it, even if you were completely faking it. I know we talked about this earlier, but just like keep going until you figure it out, because it will all work out for you. And even if it doesn't, at least you fucking tried. You know?
Yeah. Better than fucking nothing, man. The subconscious mind is all about, and reprogramming it is all about repetition.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brandon. Incredible first guest, incredible conversation. Not that we ever have bad conversations.
So we're going to probably talk for another 2 hours after this.
That's the case as well.
Yeah.
Where can everybody find you, and what would you like people to do if they do find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is peacock_Brandon. So Peacock like the bird, and then _Brandon, Brandon. You could check out some of the stuff that I'm doing there. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do another Ironman this year, but if you like Ironman stuff, I'm gonna post some Ironman content coming up, and then we've got a couple of charity campaigns that I'll be talking about as well. So you go to my page, check out Hit the Ground Running Charity is the name of a registered charity as well, where we're going to be helping a kid who was shot in the neck access physiotherapy and hopefully stem cell therapy over the next couple months. And yeah, I think if you did watch this podcast, I think that the thing that matters most to me, isn't what you can do for me, but I just hope that people who see this feel empowered to make some decisions that put themselves in a better place, right? I think for me, when I got shot, I constantly asked myself this question of like, are you proud of the legacy that you're going to leave behind? And at the time, the answer was no. And when I survived, I had this idea that my legacy was going to be all of my accolades one day. And I think I'm realizing as I get a little older, I don't really give a shit about my accolades. Like, it's cool that I ran an Ironman. It's cool that, we're built a 6-figure business, like all these things, right? But the thing that matters the most to me is that if people are able to take my story, they're able to take their interactions with me and do meaningful things with their own lives because of that spark I'm able to give them.
Yeah.
Like that to me is going to outlast me whenever I die, right? Like I don't need a fucking trophy case at my funeral. I want to be able to know I made a positive impact on people's lives. So if you're listening to this, just go out and try some new things. Expose yourself to some things that absolutely scare the shit out of you and become that person that you want to be. Because I'll tell you, if you're on that barbershop floor bleeding out and you don't feel like you were that person and you don't have that luxury of having a second chance at life, you might not find peace. And that to me was the scariest thing I would never wish that on my worst enemy. Because when I was dying, I didn't have peace. Maybe that's why I remained so hopeful, is because I knew I had to survive to have that second chance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. find the courage to do the thing that actually matters to you, even if you don't know what it is right now, because you find out in the pursuit. I don't think anybody knows when they start, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Incredibly powerful. Thank you so much. This has been the Superhuman Mind podcast, episode number 1, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with episode number 2. Thank you for listening.